My nearly adult female dad is engaged to a woman, Ruth. Ruth has an almost kindergarten-age daughter, Lacey. Their wedding is planned for January, and since Ruth and Lacey moved in with us, Dad and me, Lacey and I have been forced to share a room because it's a two-bedroomed house. Lacey has become obsessed with me. She thinks I'm the coolest person and always wants to be around me. So Ruth came up with the idea of having sibling moments during the wedding where we embrace each other as true sisters for the first time. She mentioned it to Lacey before either she or my dad mentioned it to me, so Lacey was really excited and happy, but I'm not comfortable with the idea. I don't want to hold her during a family unity ceremony. I don't want to do a special sister dance where the spotlight is on us, and I don't want to make promises I'm not sure I'd keep. Ruth has already printed out the promises and showed me what I would need to say at the wedding. It's basically, I will always answer her calls, always call her my sister from that day forward, and I will be there for her and chase away the bullies and show her how to do things. It's not that I'm opposed to us being closer at all, but I won't go out of my way to come home from college just to be there more with Lacey. I might not even stay at my dad's when I do because I don't want to share with Lacey. I already hate doing it now. I expressed that I didn't want to do those things during the wedding, and Ruth was furious. My dad was like, it would be so sweet and super cute to look back on when watching the wedding videos. Ruth was saying how excited Lacey now is and how I would crush her heart and soul and stomp on them if I refused to do it. She even claimed Lacey was saying how excited she was to have me as a sister forever and that she wanted me to be her protector. I'm not sure I'm buying that at her age she's saying all that. Ever since I said I didn't want to do those things, I've been pressured to give in. Ruth has been accusing me of rejecting Lacey and refusing to have anything to do with her. That's not what this is, but I don't love Lacey right now and I don't know that I will be playing the big sister role. It might be more like cousins because I will move out as soon as I'm 18 to get more space. But this whole thing is starting to get to me. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot. Oh wow, those weird vows Ruth wrote don't reflect any real, meaningful, naturally developing relationship. They're some imaginary fairy tale ideal, and they aren't healthy. The point is, she's made you uncomfortable and actually created a wedge in the real, thoughtful, heartfelt relationship that you've been creating with her child, all in favor of some made-up nonsense in her head. Oh, I didn't even catch the whole protector thing. That's a parental role. It's not like OP will be there to beat up the kindergarten bullies. Ruth is a massive idiot, and honestly, it's heartbreaking because her disingenuous nonsense and the imaginary idealized but entirely false picture she's created in her head is weird and more about herself than about either of the kids actually involved. Yeah, Ruth wants a built-in babysitter. She will say, but you promised you did it at my wedding in front of everyone. Ruth will want OP to stay home doing online classes because family, and Lacey doesn't want to stay with anyone else, and whatever else she can use to guilt trip OP. Better to be straightforward now. And it's wrong that at OP's age she has to share a room with a kindergartner. Your dad's fiancée and her daughter shouldn't have moved in until your dad had a house big enough that you don't need to share. Or the 5-year-old should be sharing a room with her mum and your dad. You need to talk to your dad to shut this down. Update, my bio mom is not in my life. It's why I live with my dad. I decided to move out before the wedding since I'll be turning 18 in January. I have other family. It's actually a family member I'll be moving in with when I turn 18. They know trying to get through to my dad is pointless though. I haven't graduated yet, but I'll finish high school when I leave. I already have a part-time job and will have support when I leave, so I don't drop out just to afford things. My 44 female husband, 44, lost his job nearly 2 years ago. At that point, we lived in Rhode Island for 12 years and he'd worked at the company that laid him off for nearly that long too. He had severance for 10 months at half his salary. During that time, we both searched for jobs, but the Boston, Rhode Island job market was shameful. Everybody has an MBA, PhD in Boston. Meanwhile, I have a GED while my husband has an associate's. We both tried for so long and I only got an offer for a job that paid minimum wage and was located in a sketchy part of town. I gave up and fell into a depression. My husband insisted that the East Coast is overrated and other job markets were less competitive, so he'd look there. So he found a contract to hire job in Minnesota. Obviously a cheap place, and the fact he had a job pulled me out of zombie mode. However, all of our friends are on the East Coast. But most importantly, my daughter, now a tween, is a ballet dancer and is very serious about it. Name an intensive or a competition, and she's probably participated in it, and likely placed. often at least third. The ballet scene is on the East Coast. The best studios are there as well. My daughter's dream is to dance for the New York City Ballet. I drive her an hour one way to study at a prestigious studio in Boston. Her instructor there is the best of the best. I couldn't justify moving to the middle of nowhere when my husband was doing just a 6-month contract. So my husband rented there for 6 months while we stayed in Rhode Island. Then he was hired full-time 2.5 months ago, and we began arguing because he said summer was the best time for a move. I told him to take the job but keep looking for jobs back home. He said this company took him on when he was in need, that rent in Minnesota was a third of what it is in Rhode Island, and the pay is only slightly less in his industry. There was this back and forth, and then last weekend, I took my daughter to a dance thing in New York. We missed our train back, so I booked a night at a hotel rather than scramble to get back. My husband freaked out because the school called since the cell signal was bad, so I couldn't contact the school about an absence. He was also mad about the hotel bill. He accused me of using him as a remote ATM. He demanded we make arrangements to move because this was a perfect example of how he felt he was parenting with a blindfold. I told him to calm down and that he didn't see it from anybody else's perspective. We'd be moving to a place where I know nobody. My husband doesn't understand how isolating that would be. I try to FaceTime him whenever possible, but my husband admits that he wants me here partly because he wants to have intimacy again. We're in a bad situation now, but I feel like I'd be a bad mom for uprooting my daughter from dance because of essentially his urges and parenting insecurities on my husband's end. Am I the idiot? So, your husband is busting his hump trying to support the family, and you're doing diddly squat except complaining and spending money you can't afford. I'm embarrassed for you and I feel awful for your husband. You are the idiot. Hopefully wife number 2 will bring more to the table because she certainly can bring less. I really hope this comment digs into her brain. On top of all that, I saw you mention how isolating moving somewhere new can be. Think about how isolating it is for him to have a daughter and a spouse living in another state. Consider that you aren't the only person in the marriage. You need to move. You're using your daughter's passion for dance to dig in your heels. You wouldn't have the money for dance if your husband hadn't taken the job. It sounds like you sent your husband away to make money so you and your daughter can carry on living the ballet dream, which isn't right, and it's not wrong that someone wants their spouse and child to live with them. Think how isolated he feels. You need to figure this out before you lose your marriage. My husband has 2 daughters, 19 and mid-teens, from his previous relationship. He only sees them once or twice a week on his days off. He can't see them often because of his work schedule. When they come over, they usually stay for a short time, eat dinner or lunch, and talk with their dad. Sometimes they go out for a couple of hours. The problem is they don't respect my kids and me, and the younger daughter constantly steals from our home. I wouldn't mind if they just didn't want a relationship with me, but they constantly disrespect me and insult me when I enter the room. They've insulted me for not working. I have a job but just recently had a baby and make jokes about how I'm using their dad for money. I make more money than him. I have 2 sons from a previous relationship, pre-tween and tween, which they insult because they think my sons are too dumb to understand what they're saying. Yet they understand clearly and are hurt by it. I've talked to my husband about this, and he says it's all just jokes and that he acted like that to his siblings. I've spoken to them about it and they told their mom, who argued with my husband about it. The younger daughter also steals. She'll say she's going to the bathroom and then enter the bedroom and take some cash. I've caught her doing this multiple times. My husband will make her give it back and then give her money from his own wallet. When I tried to talk to her about it, she told her mom, who again argued with my husband. We've gotten locks for our rooms, but she's just stolen other stuff instead. My kids avoid going to the kitchen or living room when the girls are over, and I'm tired of worrying that something is missing. I told my husband that he could spend time with the girls outside the house, and if he brought them over, I'd just take the kids and leave them until they were gone. My husband called me childish, and my mom said making him do that for me was unfair. Am I the idiot? Not the idiot for trying to protect your house and kids, but if you're going to leave the house, I'd install cameras. I wouldn't tell them that, but I would let them all know you'll be filing a police report if anything else comes up missing. But you and your husband need therapy ASAP, because this cannot continue. Why is he okay with his kids stealing? It's not a joke if everyone isn't laughing. Why is he okay with dismissing your feelings and that of innocent little kids? The age gap between those teenagers and your elementary schoolers is too big for jokes, and you've already told him you and your kids aren't okay with the jokes. It doesn't matter what he used to do with his siblings, unless there's some missing context here, like you're the affair partner. But even so, ultimately you have a husband problem. Might not be so black and white. He might feel guilty that for whatever reason he only sees them a couple of times a week. The girl's actions certainly scream, "I'm angry dad remarried," and will interpret any type of siding with the OP as choosing his new family over them, no matter how ridiculous. For all we know, he's stuck between a rock and a hard place and can't figure out how to solve it yet. I, 25 female, had my first baby with my husband, 25. Our daughter is named Calla to honour my grandma. She loved calla lilies and always thought Calla would make a pretty name. My husband and I wholeheartedly agreed, and the name seemed perfect for our little girl. The choice to name her Calla instead of Elizabeth, my grandma's actual name, was controversial among my family. You see, there are pretty much only 3 or 4 names for each gender circulating within my family. Everyone is named after everyone, always the same first name and usually last. It's a pain in the butt, not something my husband or I wanted to keep up. My grandma even hated it. My grandpa was a very domineering man, and he chose to name their kids names that already existed in his family. She had zero say and she hated it. I remember complaining to her one day that I hated sharing my name with 4 other family members I saw all the time. She told me every person deserves their own name, and she never liked how our family had to all have the same names. This is when I also learned how hard my grandpa was on her. He treated her like crap and made decisions for her when they were married, which was pretty much pressured by their families. She was the one who told me about honour names being more special if you don't use the actual name but something about the person or what they loved. So maybe a virtue name based on a virtue for the loved one or their favourite flower or plant, a place they loved or their birth month or stone. We lost her 2 years ago and it was awful. My husband adored her too, and she adopted him as a grandkid when we were kids. He and I were best friends before we became boyfriend and girlfriend. For us both, it made sense to honour her, and doing it how we felt was better and how she felt was better. My family has already pushed the idea that we were wrong to name her something weird that is not Elizabeth, and they say I shouldn't say we honoured Grandma. I never asked for their opinions, but they gave them and wouldn't stop giving them and insulting the choice we made. So I snapped and told them my daughter's name is none of their business, so they should keep their unwanted opinions to themselves. They told me there was no need to be rude and that I should be willing to hear honest feedback from people who love us. They claim naming is very much a family business and I should also know and respect that. Am I the idiot? So not the idiot. Calla is a beautiful name and you should be able to honour the grandmother you loved any way you want. She's your daughter, not your family's. She's the one who has to live with the name, so good on you for not letting them push this bizarre naming is a family business narrative on you. Naming babies is not family business. What the heck does that even mean? That is so stupid. You didn't name her anything offensive or anything, so they can keep their opinions to themselves. Why would you want 15 people named Elizabeth in your family? That's just confusing. Also, usually when people are just being honest, it's their way of saying, I'm going to say something insensitive and idiotic. Your daughter's name is beautiful and a perfect tribute to your grandmother. I, male 27, started dating my girlfriend, 25, 1.5 years ago, and things are going great between us. We also live very close to each other. The only thing that sometimes bothers us is our income disparity. I make almost 3 times more than her and have intraday trading accounts, so I also earn money from them. It sometimes interferes with our relationship, but I'm always mindful of carefully treating money around her. I don't spend carelessly in front of her and I pay for the majority of our dates and all. In 2021, I bought a MacBook Pro, and after using it for almost 1.5 years, I didn't like working on it anymore, so I decided to give it to my younger sister, 18. I know it sounds snobbish, but I wanted to build a gaming PC for myself, and now the PC parts are at a low price, so I'm building a very expensive gaming PC. After booking everything online, I told my girlfriend about this and she told me how much I was spending on something when I already had an expensive laptop. I told her everything and that you can't game on a MacBook and it's a work laptop. I needed a gaming PC for me, but she kept going on and on about how unnecessary it was. Finally, after half an hour, I just told her that if it bothered her, ignore it and it was my money. I could use it however I wanted. Again, she got emotional and left. Now she's giving me the cold shoulder, which feels very complicated. Not the idiot, it's your money, and you two aren't living together. Also, if your spending habits are really something to worry about, then where's that concern when it comes to you paying for the majority of your dates? Or is she mad because that gaming PC could have been an engagement ring? It seems a bit unfair that you can pay for most of your dates without a problem, yet buying something for yourself is suddenly something worth scrutinizing. I second this. I'm sure she never complained during any dates you paid for, lol. She's probably worried you're taking that money from the dates fund. My ex was exactly like this. She was perfectly fine if I was blowing money on her butt, but would lose her damn mind if I bought something for myself. 3 guesses as to why she's an ex. I will try to give her the benefit of the doubt here. Because she doesn't make as much money, she may need help understanding what sort of after-tax income you have available. For her, she may see what you're doing as a red flag, as you're spending a large amount of money on something that she sees as a frivolous expense. This may make her concerned for her financial future if the two of you were to get married, probably something in the back of her mind. Instead of addressing that concern, you dismissed it, telling her that she has no say in what you do and how you spend your money. Also, giving away a computer worth hundreds of dollars, even if to a family, is still weird overselling it to help cover the cost of the new one.